Hi, my name is Kendall Murphy, and I will be reading from my book, which is titled Parallel. Parallel is about a girl named Harper Mayfield. She lives in 2015, and when she's on a trip to New York to visit her great aunt Lydia, she's given a box of journals from her grandmother. And as she begins to read the journals, she begins to see that her life parallels, hence the name, with her grandmother's. I also wrote in the point of view of her grandmother. Her name is Dorothy, and she is writing in the period of the 1930s, which is the Great Depression. So you get to see a lot of the differences in Harper and Dorothy's life, but also you get to see from Harper's point of view how their lives are the same despite all of the small details that are different. So here is my excerpt. Far after Aunt Lydia had gone to bed, I was up binge-watching Friends on Netflix. I paused another one of Ross and Rachel's infamous fights and got up to go to the kitchen to grab a midnight, 3 a.m. snack. As I attempted to navigate the dark room, my only source of light being the glowing fruit on the back of my computer, I accidentally stubbed my toe on something. Ugh, I hunched over my poor pinky toe while I groped the wall for a light switch. What the hell? I finally found the switch and looked down at the offender. It was a box from Aunt Lydia. I knew she had told me to wait until I was home to open the box, but the unassuming yet heavy object, I had to know what was in there. I think Lydia knew I was going to do this because as I opened the box, there was one journal on top of the plastic liner. I picked up the journal with extra care. The small moleskin had been lived in and loved for a long time, and I examined the outside for a while, too scared to find out what was inside. After examining the faint doodles on the outside and the large Dorothy scratched into the journal, I opened it, and a small note fell into my lap. You are the most beautiful girl in this class. The whole world. From yours. Yours? Who is yours? I put the note down and began reading the first page. It was a little hard, I've got to admit. My grandmother wrote in cursive, and cursive had never been my thing. The beginning of journal went on and on about her troubles in the Depression. Her dad, my great-grandpa, who I never met, lost his job. He was involved with something called the Bonus Army. I have no clue what that is, but it sounds like some kind of gang. After talk of the Hoovervilles, which were some kind of homeless encampments, and all different types of things, she really started to talk. I had never thought of my grandmother keeping a journal. Then again, I didn't hear much about my grandmother at all. But this journal was the type of journal I could see her hiding under her mattress, or whatever they did in the 1930s. Most of the pages were about a boy named Charlie, which was weird. I'd never heard of any Charlie. My grandfather's name was James, my father's Jack. Whoever this Charlie was, though, he was all she thought about. Journal entry after journal entry were all of things her and Charlie did together. They weren't grand things, it was the Great Depression after all, but she sure was in love with this boy. It's odd saying that. Shouldn't I be saying that about my grandfather? I mean, yes, before tonight, my grandparents were always utterly in love in my eyes. But after reading these words, there was nothing like this. Dear Diary, Charlie's deep blue eyes watched me from across the room. He knew I wanted to speak to my friends, but he hadn't taken his eyes off me. Honestly, I hadn't wanted him to take his eyes off me. Every time I see him glance at me, my heart jumps. Even though we're going steady, I can't believe every time he walks up to me, he's walking to me. I always think he's going to breeze past me again. When he does walk up to me, I go starry-eyed and begin to blush like a maniac. I can't tell if he hasn't noticed or he just thinks it's cute. Hopefully the first. I think it's positively embarrassing, and no matter how hard I try to think of him as the dorkiest, nicest person, it doesn't work. He has some kind of effect on me. I couldn't believe the words I was reading. Was this my grandmother, so infatuated and in love with this Charlie figure? To be honest, I had never really believed in love. I watched my parents' marriage dissolve into nightly fights and eventually custody court. I couldn't bring myself to believe two people could be in love forever. I believe in love. I guess in a sense of loving a friend or family or even a significant other, but I do not believe it is possible to be in love. I don't know. I've never experienced it myself, and I doubt I will. Thank you. Any questions?